What if something you wrote in complete privacy, meant only for one person's eyes, got twisted to make you look like the villain? That's exactly what happened to Kate. And when the palace insiders found out what really went down, it uncovered a betrayal so deliberate, so calculated, that it forced the entire royal family to make an impossible choice. If you want to see how this story unfolds and what it reveals about power inside the palace, stick with me until the end, because the real scandal isn't about jewels at all. Picture this. Kate's in the middle of preparing for a private event when her secretary walks in holding something that stops her cold. It's a printed copy of her own handwritten letter. Not just any letter, but something deeply personal she'd written to one person and one person only. Someone's about to publish it. The moment Kate starts reading, she knows this is bad, really bad. She grips those pages like they're evidence because, honestly, at that point, they kind of are. Her voice stays calm, but inside, she's asking the one question that matters most. Who else has seen this? The letter itself seems innocent enough on the surface. It's about jewels, some historic pieces that belong to Queen Elizabeth, and they're being reassigned without asking Kate's opinion. But here's where it gets complicated. These aren't just pretty diamonds sitting in a drawer somewhere. These pieces are connected to the role Kate will eventually step into. They're symbols of what's coming, and decisions about them are being made like she doesn't get a say. So she writes directly to Camilla, tries to handle it woman to woman, keeps it private so nobody can turn it into some big public drama. Her argument makes sense. Royal jewels shouldn't be treated like personal property or rewards. They're held for the nation. That's actually a really reasonable position. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. When the letter gets leaked, it's not the whole letter that shows up. Someone removed the ending. Kate had written a conciliatory closing, an invitation to meet privately, a suggestion for how they could both walk away with their dignity intact. All of that gone. Without it, the parts about not using jewels as personal rewards sound like an accusation of greed aimed straight at Camilla. And that's when Kate realizes she's not dealing with a simple leak. This was edited. This was weaponized. When she figures out where it came from, everything clicks into focus. The formatting of the leaked version has a signature, and it points straight to one place, Camilla's own household. Not Kate's office, not some random palace worker. This document was scanned and handled by people who report directly to Camilla. That's not a guess, that's a paper trail. Kate puts the pages down, takes off her engagement ring, and cancels everything non-essential on her schedule. She's not a wounded wife anymore. She's a future queen who just realized her private words are being used as a weapon. William gets a warning from palace officials not long after. This wasn't just about embarrassing Kate. Someone wanted this conflict completely public, and once that reality hits, everything shifts. The question becomes way more unsettling. Who actually benefits from making these two women enemies? Because yeah, the letter is about jewels, but the real conflict has never been about diamonds. For Camilla, those jewels represent something massive. They're proof that she's finally been accepted. She spent years being the woman crowds wouldn't cheer for. Newspapers tore her apart. Royal circles treated her like a problem. Wearing pieces connected to earlier queens, that's a statement that says the institution has finally let her belong. But for Kate, those same objects represent something completely different. They're about duty, still waiting on the horizon. She spent years learning how to enter this world carefully. She doesn't demand things, she doesn't challenge the people above her, she accepts change without complaining. To her, these jewels aren't possessions. They're historical pieces entrusted to whoever carries the crown's weight and responsibilities. When Camilla reads the leaked parts without the ending, sitting there with her closest advisor, she doesn't see a request for balance. She sees an accusation of greed directed at her, and she tells the people around her exactly how that feels. Kate could never understand what it cost her to survive long enough to wear these pieces without shame. Kate, on the other hand, feels something different entirely. Her patience has been mistaken for weakness. She's accepted delayed access, changed plans, quiet compromises over and over. But suddenly, several important pieces get reassigned like it's nothing. It feels deliberate. It feels designed to remind her that someone else still controls her future. William doesn't accept the leak at face value. He gets Kate's actual handwritten version and compares it to what went public. The strongest, sharpest lines, all there. The gentle ending, missing. Kate had written about setting up a private meeting, proposing an arrangement that respects both Camilla's present role and Kate's future responsibilities. That entire passage vanished from the press version. William finds Kate staring at a photograph of Queen Elizabeth wearing one of the disputed brooches, a jewelry reference book open beside her. He closes the book carefully and says something that reframes everything. This isn't about what you wrote anymore. It's about what they want people to believe you wrote. Kate's anger softens into something more painful, hurt. She admits she'd written it as an act of respect, not an ultimatum. Then William demands to see the document log, and what he finds changes the entire story. That note entered palace records days before the leak, immediately after a confrontation nobody ever talked about publicly. To understand the betrayal, you have to rewind to a state banquet at Buckingham Palace. State banquets are formal dinners for visiting world leaders, and every detail matters diplomatically. A velvet tray opens. A historic necklace gets presented. Kate's told the arrangement has changed. No debate, no explanation. Just an instruction, like the future Princess of Wales doesn't get to ask why. That moment makes the private letter inevitable. 3 weeks before everything explodes, Kate arrives expecting to wear a necklace traditionally connected to the direct line of succession. She's already worn the matching earrings. Palace planners chose the full set to suggest connection between past and future. Then a senior dresser quietly tells her Camilla has reserved the necklace for herself. Kate doesn't argue in front of the attendants. She watches the velvet tray get removed and asks everyone except her private secretary to leave. The humiliation is controlled, but it's absolutely real. She's accepted changes before. She's stepped back when needed. This feels different. This feels like a warning. Later that evening, Camilla defends the choice to a senior aide. She's angry that Kate's team planned a complete set without asking permission first. To Camilla, it's about authority. To Kate, it's about being deliberately pushed back. The point of no return comes when Kate finds Camilla in a palace corridor and asks if the necklace was withdrawn on purpose. Camilla doesn't soften her answer. It was never yours to lose. Then she walks into the reception before Kate can respond. One of Camilla's aides writes down that conversation in an internal briefing note, a private document meant to summarize sensitive moments for senior staff. Suddenly, a family disagreement becomes an official household matter. The conflict now has a record and an audience beyond just the two women. Kate soon discovers the necklace isn't the only piece affected. A sapphire brooch closely linked to Queen Elizabeth is also being reserved exclusively for Camilla's use across multiple future events. Back at Kensington Palace, Kate begins writing by hand. She tears up the first version because it sounds too angry. The second version is calmer, built around duty, history, and mutual respect. The message reaches Camilla the next morning. But before Camilla can answer, someone orders it scanned, logged, and shared way more widely than protocol allows. By the time Kate finds out how far her words have traveled, courtesy has already failed. The next conversation isn't going to happen through letters or secretaries or carefully chosen words. Kate doesn't go through official channels. She doesn't send another note. She goes straight to Camilla's private sitting room and asks every aide to leave. When that door closes, there are no secretaries, no handlers, and no cameras to reward restraint. For the first time, Kate confronts her face to face and demands to know who betrayed her. She carries both versions, the original handwritten note and the leaked copy that made it to the press. Camilla is surprised by the visit, but she refuses to surrender control of the conversation. Kate places both documents side by side and points to the final paragraph that vanished. Someone deliberately edited her words. She explains that she can handle disagreement over jewels, ranking, and ceremony. She can even accept decisions she thinks are unfair. What she will not accept is private correspondence being stripped of its true meaning and used to make her look grasping and disrespectful. Camilla denies authorizing the leak. Her answer comes fast, but her confidence weakens when Kate asks why the note was scanned and shared through her household instead of answered privately. The older royal insists her staff saw the message as an official challenge requiring advice. Kate doesn't buy it. Camilla reaches for the leaked pages, but Kate covers them with her hand and says, "No, you've already had my words. Now I need yours." The room changes in that moment. Camilla admits discussing the note with her senior private secretary and communications advisor, though she keeps denying she passed it to journalists. Her denial is very specific. She didn't leak it herself, but she allowed others to treat it like something bigger than a family message. Camilla finally reveals the real motive. Her team believed Kate was trying to control the royal collection before William became king. They saw the note as a power play against the Queen's authority, not an attempt to preserve respect between two women. For one brief second, Camilla's anger cracks, and fear shows through. She realizes her own advisors may have acted in her name while leaving her exposed and isolated. Kate demands the names of every person who accessed the note. Camilla warns that a full investigation could damage Charles and destabilize both households. Kate leaves without responding. As the door opens, the king walks in from the adjoining room. His expression makes one thing crystal clear. He's heard everything. The dispute has crossed into Charles's private world, forcing him to decide whether protecting Camilla means confronting the machinery that acted around her. Charles has spent years defending Camilla from a hostile world. Now he faces a threat from inside the institution he controls. If he dismisses the leak as a minor mistake, he wounds Kate and alienates William. If he orders a full investigation, he exposes Camilla's closest advisors and questions her judgment. The king sits between his wife and his heir, holding a file that could fracture the monarchy either way. Charles understands formal power. The royal collection remains under his authority, but access is shaped by tradition and household planning. That system was supposed to preserve order. Instead, it created rival camps around the people closest to the crown. Charles gave separate royal households freedom because he thought distance would reduce conflict. In reality, that freedom let aides become defenders and strategists and gatekeepers. Each office protected its principal. Each watched the others for advantage. The king wanted calm. He created competing power bases. Charles reads the document access report in silence. When he reaches the final page, he removes his glasses and asks one question that hangs in the air. Why did 9 people need to see a personal note addressed to my wife? Nobody answers immediately. Charles wants to believe Camilla knew nothing about this. He remembers promising to protect her from humiliation and rejection. Punishing her household wouldn't look like a simple decision. It could question her legitimacy and reopen wounds both have spent years trying to heal. But William refuses to let that fear decide the outcome. He tells his father that Kate's trust has been violated and her reputation deliberately damaged. Silence, he says, sends a brutal message. Anyone inside the palace could attack his wife without consequence, as long as they claim to be protecting someone more senior. Then the investigation uncovers the hidden instruction. Camilla's senior communications aide marked the scanned note for strategic handling. The instruction recommended allowing selected journalists to hear that Kate was pressing claims over the Queen's jewels. The purpose is unmistakable. The leak was designed to weaken Kate before future decisions get made. Charles picks up his pen and signs the suspension order. His hand pauses because he knows that signature will be read as choosing his son's household over his wife's. Minutes later, another copy reaches the press. This version comes with palace emails suggesting Camilla knew her team planned to use the dispute publicly. Charles tried to contain the betrayal with one signature. But the second leak transforms an internal scandal into a direct test of Camilla's honesty. By morning, the palace isn't discussing jewels anymore. It's discussing deception. What had started as a disagreement between two women becomes a crisis involving everyone around them. Staff members stop talking freely in hallways, phones get collected before meetings, old allies start protecting themselves. Every deleted message suddenly matters. Camilla faces the possibility that her closest advisors sacrificed Kate's reputation to strengthen their own positions. Kate discovers that winning the argument could still cost her the one thing she tried to protect: family trust. Charles orders restrictions across both households. Access to private correspondence gets tightened. Communications teams surrender their devices. Every decision involving historic jewels gets frozen. The public story changes just as fast. Early headlines portrayed Kate as impatient and demanding. The second leak exposed missing paragraphs, internal instructions, and deliberate media handling. Suddenly, the question isn't whether the princess asked for too much, it's whether palace officials twisted her words to protect their own influence. When everything quiets down, Camilla and Kate finally meet again without the machinery. No papers, no aides outside with prepared statements. Kate arrives alone, and Camilla dismisses even her personal attendant. For several seconds, neither woman speaks. Their battle over jewels exposed something far more painful. One feared being pushed aside before her reign even started. The other feared being diminished before hers had truly begun. Camilla admits that Kate's popularity and future position made her feel temporary. Every conversation about succession sounded like a reminder that the monarchy was already planning for life beyond her. Kate listens and then shares her own truth. The reassigned necklace and brooch made her feel erased. Each unexplained decision seemed like proof that Camilla intended to block her from symbols connected to the next queen. She didn't want immediate possession, she wanted recognition that her future role mattered. Camilla opens a drawer and removes the original handwritten note. She pushes it across the table and admits she should have answered Kate herself before letting advisors interpret it. Then she makes the confession that matters most. She knew her team planned to challenge what they saw as Kate's claim over the collection, but she never authorized the leak. Her silence, however, gave them permission to go further. Kate doesn't demand humiliation, she doesn't ask for Camilla's removal. Instead, she proposes a written protocol forbidding palace staff from using private family correspondence in any media strategy. Camilla expected surrender. She receives a boundary. Her posture softens as Kate's fury becomes controlled resolve. They agree the disputed necklace will remain unworn at the next state event. Each will choose a different jewel associated with service rather than rank. Months later, Camilla wears the diamond necklace at a state occasion with Kate's agreement. The princess wears the sapphire brooch after the older royal recommends it. Before entering the reception, Camilla asks whether Kate is comfortable with the arrangement. Kate answers yes. The exchange lasts seconds, but it carries the respect that should have existed from the beginning. The crisis ends an era where rival households could manipulate private tensions for power. Kate's strength rests not in diamonds, but in restraint and duty. Camilla's place survives because she chose honesty over protection. The jewels return to their cases. The note returns to Kate. The palace moves forward under a rule born from betrayal. So here's what actually matters from all of this. A leaked letter meant to weaken Kate exposed her discipline instead. It was supposed to protect Camilla's position, but forced her to confront her own insecurity. It was meant to turn royal tradition into a weapon, but it revealed which people profit from division. When all the dust settled, victory went not to whoever won the argument about jewels, but to whoever found the strength to stop fighting for them. If you found this story as incredible as I did, please hit that like button, drop a comment about what you think Kate should have done differently, and subscribe so you never miss the next big royal revelation. Thank you so much for watching.